brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you. Happy New Year, everybody. Lakey live in the house of Lakey. Lakey is unleashed, free from the bonds and the bounds of confined corporate radio. And here we are together, podcasting, broadcasting, and standing up for truth, freedom, and the American way in 2025. Happy New Year. Last time we were together, I was in Africa. I was on the patio of a beautiful hotel with palm trees behind me and talking about the year-end events. And if you missed that event, on most of the platforms that we're on right now, Facebook, the X, the Twitter, you can go back, stream down, and you can find past of the daily update shows. And that's what this is, a Jimmy Lakey Unleashed Daily Update, top of the morning to you. If you're listening in real time, you know today is today. It's back to work day. Everybody's kind of out of the holiday schedule and back to work, back to the grindstone, back to your get back in the saddle again, if you will. It's Monday, the 6th day of January, 2025. Oh, did I say January the 6th? I wonder if the algorithms and the censors at YouTube will be mad that I said January the 6th. It is a date in the Constitution that requires that the Congress certify the results of the election. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson over the weekend said, members of Congress, don't go home. We're expecting a snowstorm, and we don't want you to get stuck out because we have to certify the results of the election. Of course, with people like Liz Cheney and other traitors and treasonous people that were on that January the 6th committee, they made January the 6th seem like a very bad thing. Turns out that a lot of stuff they said about the J6 wasn't true. They called it an insurrection, but it turns out it really wasn't an insurrection. It turns out in a lot of ways, it was a government operation to try to make Trump look bad. But hey, I digress. Should we call it Happy January the 6th? You say Happy 4th of July. I don't like when you say Happy 4th of July. I like it when you say Happy Independence Day. So rather than saying Happy January the 6th, why don't we call it Happy Insert Erection Day? It's too early for that. Happy Insert Erection Day. I'm tongue-tied there. Insurrection Day. I kind of like it better the other way. Anyway, happy day to you, everybody. Good to have you here. The members of Congress will certify the Trump landslide today in the hallowed halls of Congress. No word as to whether the FBI is going to be there inciting violence and causing people to do things maybe they shouldn't be doing. So I'm not sure what the FBI is going to be doing today. Probably preparing and burning files and shredding the documents before Kash Patel shows up on the scene. That's probably what they're going to be doing. But happy Insert Erection Day. Glad to have you here on the program. Hey, don't forget, whatever platform you're listening to the show, we got listeners tuning in throughout across America. Many are on the X, the Twitter. How long do you have to keep saying it used to be called Twitter? Rich says, good morning. It's an icy, wintry wonderland out here in the middle of Missouri. I heard that. My son goes to college in Missouri, University of Missouri, and in Missouri, not the University of Missouri. And he's here. He's at home in Colorado. But if he was out there right now, they had this last year, that ice storm, and he was stuck in the dorms for like 2 days. He hated it, so he's not there. But it was around the same time of year, right after the Christmas holiday. But he was back there. Now he's here, so he's hopefully going to survive it. Dennis says, "Good morning and Happy New Year, Jimmy." Dennis, Happy New Year to you. I mean that very sincerely to all of you. Happy New Year. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a fantastic year. Producer Chad and I working on this podcast, this Lakey Unleashed show. We're going to make it great again. We're going to make it greater. Now, you get the idea. It's going to be a good year. I really believe that. Couple of stories I want to give to you this morning. News stories. We got great guests coming up on the program. But as I was saying, whatever platform you're listening to, if you're on the X, if you're on the Facebook, we're on Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page, Facebook.com. Red Wave America, Media Equalizer. The X is just my name, the Twitter feed. And you can also share these things out and air them live on your platforms if you want to as well. I think a lot of places have share buttons, and to see how that works for you. But most of the platforms, Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. How the heck are you? Everybody good on the YouTube as well. And good morning to the little hipsters at Instagram. Instagram is actually one of my favorite platforms, and we're live on the Instagram this morning. So please, you can comment, and on most of those platforms, not all, we can actually read the comments as you see them pop up here in the studio, and you can actually read the comments here on the broadcast. So anyway, if you say hello, comment on the topic, jump right in, and we will we'll put those up as necessary and needed on the program. I got a question of the day. While I was the day I was leaving Africa, packing up my bag to head back to America, I heard the story of the tragedy in New Orleans where a guy drove a truck up onto the Bourbon Street, killed a bunch of people, evidently ties with ISIS. A real tragedy. Matter of fact, this time last year I was in New Orleans for my first time ever. One of my friends had a birthday party, his 50th birthday. We gathered for a destination gathering. And first time I was ever in New Orleans, and did Bourbon Street, did some great restaurants there in New Orleans, some great eating. But I was on Bourbon Street about this time last year, so a real tragedy there. And then right after that, a few hours after, you had this cyber truck that pulls up into the valet at Trump Towers, which Trump Towers is one of my top places when I go to Vegas. I think the Wynn is probably my favorite. The Palazzo is the second favorite. I say I'm a north end of the Strip guy in Vegas. But Trump is also a place I like. They don't have a casino, which is fine with me because I don't gamble, but they also don't have a place a cigar lounge. I have to walk down to the Wynn Hotel to use it's for my cigars. But I like the Trump Tower. And I've stayed there many times. I've actually thought many times that maybe I should have a place at Trump Tower in Las Vegas. For many years, I thought that before he's ever president. I said I could live here. Really, I could. So all that being said, are we being told the truth about everything? Anymore, when the government tells you something, more and more I just question it. I wonder, what the heck are these people thinking? Are they really telling us the truth? There's just so many weird stories out there. We were told, hey, they're just coincidences, that everybody kind of followed the same playbook. They rented their cars from Turo. They maybe they are coincidences. Evidently, the guy that hit the Vegas tower for Trump was a Trump supporter, with supporters like him who needs enemies. But he was tired. He had some PTSD. He was tired of the wars. And I'm like, well, Brother Trump's the guy trying to stop the wars. Maybe you should blame the wars on someone else. Brother Trump was trying to get us out of wars and shun the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about. So it's kind of an open-ended question. Do you think you're being told the truth on the attacks in New Orleans and Trump Tower in Las Vegas? Are they, for some reason, there's just this itchy part of my heart that says they're not telling us something. There's something they're not telling us. There's something that they're not saying, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. So in the comment section, whatever platform you're on, what do you think? What do you think is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And do you think we're being told? Now, we're told they're really working hard to tell you this guy in Vegas was a Trump supporter and not a terrorist. And I was talking to a friend the other night, and I said, well, of course the government doesn't want you to think that both were terrorists, both were somehow fundamentalists, some sleeper cell inside the military. Both were veterans, both, I think, served in Colorado at different times at military bases here. But of course, they don't want you to think that they were a sleeper cell, because that would show the wokeism of the Department of Defense under Joe Biden, that they have these types of people out there. I mean, remember the Fort Hood guy, the guy that back in Texas, he had the shooting at Fort Hood. He was a veteran, and he was part of some radicalized, I wouldn't say sleeper cell, but he was part of a radical group that had infiltrated his mind through the military. So it is possible, but it's not in the government's best interest for you to think that this was some coordinated act of terrorism and anti-Americanism, because it shows that maybe our military has not been focused on the right things. Somebody put up this, and I have it later in the show, but it's a meme that's going to be in our stolen meme section, but it's Sean Davis talking about the FBI. Maybe the FBI should have been more focused on, there it is. Producer Chad has that there. Maybe the FBI should have been focused more on finding out. They were too busy kneeling at BLM riots, arresting Christian pastors, locking up patriotic grandmothers, spying on churches, and lying about school board parents to be bothered with something as trivial as stopping violent terrorists from killing Americans. That's one of our stolen memes of the day. I think Sean Davis nails it. He's a blue check mark there on the Twitter. Maybe the FBI under Merrick Garland, the esteemed jackwagon that he is, should have been focused on something else, trying to find the violent terrorists from killing Americans, rather than going after parents and moms who are standing up for their kids' rights at school board meetings. Just a contemplative thought. as we look at the legacy of the Joe Biden administration. You have to ask yourself this question. Number one, are you being told the truth about what's happened? Are they trying to spin it to this is there's something missing? I'm telling you, there's something missing. And when the government's spinning a story, there's something missing. Here's how I know there's something missing. Anybody remember in 2024, less than a year ago, you had 2 Trump assassinations attempts, right? You had 2 of them, and we know more about this Trump guy, this Trump Tower guy in Las Vegas, even more about the terrorist in New Orleans than we know about these other guys. So a guy shoots at Trump live at a rally. Benny Johnson put this out, and there's no manifesto. There was no cell data. There were no texts, no emails, no interviews of their parents, no footages of the home, no background, no accomplices. It goes away. The Trump guys, it just goes away. I mean, we knew where the guy that rented his cyber truck and went to the Trump Tower in Colorado Springs, from Colorado Springs and went to Vegas, Elon Musk released where he charged his cyber truck at. And does anybody know why the guy that attempted the assassination in Pennsylvania and narrowly missed Trump just by a millimeter by the ear and almost had an execution on live television? Does anybody know why we still don't know what were on his extra cell phones? They confirmed that he had extra cell phones, but for some reason we don't know what was on it. They were having a tough time cracking him. But it seems we know what size underwear, whether these guys wore boxers or briefs in New Orleans or Las Vegas. We seem to know everything about these guys. But the jackwagon hiding in the bushes at Mar-a-Lago, what do we know about him? Do we even know where he's in jail? Do we know what he's been charged with? Do we know when his next hearing is? Remember Luigi, the shooter of the university healthcare worker, CEO? We saw him being perp walked into a jail. Did you ever see the guy from Mar-a-Lago getting perp walked into a court hearing? It's very interesting. This is why I think there's a lot of scratching my head here going on, that I'm not sure I'm being told the truth about everything. So here's a question of the day. Are we being told the truth? And maybe you have information. You've watched the news story. I haven't, but I watched what happened in the assassination attempts of Donald Trump. And we have such a lack of information. And yet these attacks in New Orleans and at the Trump Tower in Las Vegas, we seem to be told, hey, there's nothing to see here, no coincidence. And maybe there is no coincidence, but maybe it's also, again, it's in the government's best interest, if the conspiracies turned out to be true, as they often do. It's in the government's best interest not to let you know that, because it would show that the Merrick Garland and Biden administration have been derelict in their duties and feckless in focusing on the right things. Just food for thought. You comment, and we'll put some of those comments up. Are we being told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on that? Let's see. I mentioned this is the January the 6th anniversary, Insurrection anniversary. So happy Insurrection Day. So yeah, happy day for you. The Presidential Medal of Freedom. Anybody see this? Joe Biden's handing out prizes. He's handed it's like he went to the doctor's office and you're getting a sucker and a lollipop at the end of the thing. He's handing them out. Just now the question is going to be, what pardons is he going to hand out? He handed out a Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor you can be given by the president. He gave one to George Soros, who you have to ask what George Soros has ever done. Is one of our stolen memes. Joe Biden presenting George Soros with the Medal of Freedom. The lighting makes George look fantastic there, doesn't he? It looks really good. There's a beautiful lighting there on George Soros getting his Medal of Freedom. And then, of course, Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton got her Medal of Freedom as well. And here's something you got to remember. Today's a good day to remind people, as Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton gets her Medal of Freedom, that she said those people that died on the screen there, you see, remember her nagging voice. What difference does it make? We have that audio, I think, later in the show, and it's fantastic that we would remember who Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton is. That brings me something to tease on the program. In less than an hour, Mark Geist is going to be in the show. You may know him as Oz from the movie Benghazi, 13 Hours. Oz is going to be on the program. Maybe he'll be on right about 9 o'clock on the Mountain Time. That will be right about 11 o'clock on the Eastern Time Zone on the live update. And Mark Oz Geist is supposed to be here with us this morning. And we're going to talk about his thoughts about Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton getting a Medal of Freedom from the Biden administration. Now, they also gave a residential award to Liz Cheney, and also the person that chaired the January the 6th Insurrection Committee. I have to ask you, I got to look up the difference. Does anybody know the difference of why they didn't get a Medal of Freedom and why they only got the residential prize? Was that like a booby prize? Is that a runner-up prize? I don't know the exact situation on that. But what do you think of that when you saw George Soros, Liz Cheney, Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton, and some other jackwagons get a Medal of Freedom or some kind of prize from the president? You kind of say, I don't understand what Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton has done to deserve that, especially if you remember what happened at Benghazi under her watch and her leadership and her dramatic testimony from Congress, where she said, "What difference does it make?" Anybody remember that? Yeah, not good from old Kankles there. So she got a prize. What you think of that? Always comment on the platforms that you're on. Always give us a comment and give us a love to have you part of the conversation. Jeff says such a sad exit for Biden and company. Anybody surprised by this? I mean, you think he's giving out prizes to idiots like Kankles and also prizes to people like Liz Cheney. Wait till he starts handing out the pardons in the next couple of weeks. I mean, the odds in Vegas, if they were setting odds in pardons, I'm guessing Joe Biden's got a lot of pardons to hand out here in the next few weeks as well. So it is an exit. Is it unexpected? I mean, we called it the Biden crime family. They run a criminal enterprise by all accounts. History will tell the story, and I think it's already starting to be told. And you have to say it's maybe sad, but it's also not necessarily surprising. Liz Cheney got a prize. It's probably the only award she's ever won in her life. I wonder if old Dick Cheney and Lynn Cheney, her parents, they got to be real proud of her, right? Maybe they're too old to even know, but yeah, the Cheney family. If Dick Cheney and the more you know did not, and the whole Middle East war, the never-ending war that they never wanted to win, if that didn't end up tarnishing the Cheney reputation, Liz Cheney has totally destroyed anything that history will talk about the Cheney family, and that's actually sad as well. Oh, anybody watch the football games? Great football season. I'm going to be sad in a couple of several weeks when football ends. You'll have the national championship in the college. You also will have the Super Bowl. And then you have this, we enter into a desert time, like the children of Israel wandering the wilderness for several years. They went 40 years. We're going to have to go several months with no football. And that breaks my heart every time that happens. Anybody see the Georgia Bowl game? There's a sad story. Their coach, the Georgia Bulldog coach, Kirby Smart, his father was at the bowl game. Evidently, his parents were always at the games, and he would go hug him after the game. And I think it was either before the game or after the game, his dad had a fall, and I think he hurt his hip, as sometimes happens in the elderly. And his dad hurt his hip, and when his dad hurt the hip, he had to go to surgery, and complications erupted in surgery. And his dad didn't make it. His dad died. I think they're in the Sugar Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. His dad passed away. So thoughts, prayers. If you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, I know we have some folks in Georgia that comment sometimes. But the Georgia coach, Kirby Smart, a story that I read, it wasn't like a headline. There's so many other news stories happening, but the Georgia football coach's father passed away, complications from a surgery from a fall that happened when he was attending the bowl game in town for his son's Kirby Smart. So thoughts and prayers to the Georgia Bulldog community and to Kirby Smart. Go Dogs, I guess. Unless you're a Roll Tide fan, then Roll Tide. Anybody see this? Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is reportedly going to announce his resignation as early as today. Justin Trudeau is about to kiss it goodbye. He's about to say, adios, amigos y amigas. I don't know if they speak Spanish in Canada, but that's what he's about to say. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. A tyrant when it came to the booger cootie virus and the pandemic. He's not necessarily a good guy. He's persecuted a lot of his political foes. Remember the truckers of Canada shutting down their bank accounts and really prosecuting and persecuting them because they just said, hey, we want to be open. Has Justin Trudeau ever apologized for the lies that he helped perpetrate from during the COVID crisis? Has he ever apologized for the lies and the persecution he brought on anybody? You know, it kind of could say that Donald Trump brings down Justin Trudeau, because a little pansy Justin Trudeau comes down from Kansas and tries to put on his big boy panties and shows up at Mar-a-Lago, and he sits down and whines at the table at Mar-a-Lago to President Trump and says, you can't give us these tariffs. We can't handle it. We're a weak nation, and I'm a weak man. And Donald Trump, as a strong man, looked at him with his big boy pants on and said, you know what? maybe you should just become the 51st state. You might be qualified to be a governor. We'd maybe call you Governor Trudeau. And ever since then, it went to hell for Justin Trudeau. And again, to all of our Canadian friends, if you're listening in Canada, watching in Canada, give us your thoughts. Trudeau, it looks like he's about to go to the keister. He's about to get flushed by the people and the parliament and he's going to resign as early as today. So the death watch in on the prime minister reign of Justin Trudeau. All right, now let me play some video for you. I'm going to get to Brian Maloney as well here in just a moment. Again, whatever platform you're on, make sure you're commenting. If it's a Facebook, feel free. We're on the Red Wave America, the Jimmy Lakey fan page. We're on the Media Equalizer. We're on the X. We're on the Rumble. We're on the Instagram this morning as well. We're on the YouTubes. Hello to the YouTubes. How are you out there? So feel free to give us your comments, and we'll get some of those out there. And also like and subscribe on YouTube. It makes YouTube very unhappy when you like and subscribe to this podcast, because it goes against they're scanning it with their AI bots every moment, trying to find out how they can shut me down on the tubes of the use. So like us and subscribe on the YouTube, and whatever platform you're on, go like us on another platform. You can stay consistent on your platform, but give us the likes, give us the eyeballs on those other platforms. And also do me a favor. Ready? Do me a big favor. Share us. Would you share us? Give us a share. Please, I'm asking very nicely. Don't make me yell. I'm asking very nicely. Just hit the share button. So you got to watch this show. You got to watch the daily update. And I would appreciate it from the heart of my bottom and the bottom of my heart. I would really, really appreciate it. All right. I was in Africa for New Year's Eve, celebrating there. They had fireworks. Yes. We had beverages. And a few beverages, several cigars, and rang in the new year there. A matter of fact, when I was waking up while you were celebrating New Year's, it was my morning time when you were celebrating your New Year's in America. But I didn't see this. I didn't get to watch a lot of the live television broadcast of this. But anybody see what happened on CNN? Old Anderson Cooper and his pumped, pious, liberal, radicalized self is standing there. And there's a comedian. Her name escapes me. This comedian gets up there, and she goes haywire, and I would say ballistic on there. And she wonders if Anderson Cooper has cut her mic off a couple of times. She goes, am I still on? Am I still on? This happened, if you missed it, on CNN. No joke. CNN on New Year's Eve. Roll the tape, as they say.
Whitney Cummings want a shot? Do you want a shot? No, you don't. No, you don't.
No.
Our next guest, come on over.
Comedian Whitney Cummings on a national tour in 2025.
Look at you.
You are
wearing New Year's white.
Not a drop of rain has touched you.
We
are soaked.
Well, it's all dropping on me from your umbrella again.
Was that thunder?
That was thunder.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I thought it was Kathy Griffin screaming at you from the street. Are you sure? I think she's cursing.
Well, no doubt.
What are you most excited for 2025?
I mean, hopefully forgetting 2024.
Right.
You know, working a lot, which is good. I'm touring.
You're going on a national tour. That's
I'm a
exciting.
stand-up comedian touring over.
How long are you going to be on tour?
Do you even know who I am, Anderson?
Yes, I do know
Is he
who
just
you are.
like, I thought Joan Rivers was dead.
No, I do know you are. How long are you going on
He
tour?
does now.
I'm touring all over for all of 2025.
Wow.
Very
Do you like
exciting.
being on the road?
touring. It's the best. I love going around the country.
All right, this is just a small talk of it.
More reasonable than they would be portrayed.
She slammed CNN in this thing. Let's see if we get to it here in a second.
Now, I thought being a mom would mean that less people will want to come see me. I'm now playing, like
she slams Joe Biden. That's coming up.
Which is about the viewership of CNN.
I thought we had the cut. This is the whole thing here.
Nice.
All eyes are on this show.
Wow, you're all firing.
Andy and I had a tour. We did like 3,000 people. Yes.
All right, pull that down. This is the whole thing. Pull that down, and let me go back here, and we'll get to Brian Maloney. Anyway, go watch it. It's out there circulating on the interweb. She actually slams Joe Biden. She says they spent more time propping up a candidate than running a candidate. She said she says, and she goes, I'm selling out shows like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people now. She goes, which is more than the viewership of CNN. I thought we had the small cut. We didn't. So we won't play the whole segment because it goes on a couple of minutes. So anyway, go watch it. Whitney Cummings, she slams the hell out of CNN, and we'll see if we can get that pulled down for you in a second. But it's funny. Anyway, watch that. That was really funny. All right. Good to have all of you here. Brian Maloney is with Red Wave America. If you're listening on the Red Wave America platform or the Media Equalizer program, he's the guru, the god, and the big guy. Please welcome to the stage. Happy New Year, Brian Maloney. Here he is.
The big guy. The big guy.
The big guy. How are you, Brian?
What's up?
How are you, sir?
Oh, yeah. No, I can't believe CNN even had her on. I never heard of her, but boy, She's probably selling out shows now after that.
she probably is. Hey, Brian, let's dive into some of the news there. CNN's coverage there. I asked this question of the viewers and the listeners today. I still go back to the days of the Donald Trump assassins. We don't know where the guy that shot him in Mar-a-Lago's at. We still don't know why the kid that cleaned bedpans at a nursing home. We still don't know why that kid had several cell phones and what was on those cell phones. But, man, you come to a New Orleans guy or a guy that tries to blow up the Trump Tower, and we seem to know what size underwear they wear. We know whether they had boxers or briefs. It seems there's just something in my spirit, in my heart that says I think I'm not being told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth here.
Well, that's exactly right, and especially when it comes to the Tesla Cybertruck guy who pulled up, or whoever that was in that truck, because the more we find out, the more digging that is done. It's mostly done by internet sleuths who've been looking into this and saying, Jimmy, that none of the official version of events is real. So there was an email purported to have been sent by him that was plastered all over everywhere that has been picked apart and almost completely proven to have been not from him, completely false. So we have no idea what this guy was actually up to, what was really going on. He was supposedly, from what we do know, from what his family has said, a huge supporter of Trump. So why would he pull up in a rented Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower, Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, with a bunch of fireworks, and there was no real bomb in the truck either. And then to say, Jimmy, the official police or official whatever FBI version is that he shot himself, before the truck blew up. And then their video, has emerged showing him moving around just before all, if you slow-mo it, and I did put that on Media Equalizer, I think yesterday. You slow-mo that video and you can see him clearly moving around just before it blows up. So it looks like he's alive and well. So, I mean, nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing.
Yeah. We talked about this earlier. It's kind of interesting that if you explain to one guy, okay, the guy in New Orleans, they say he had an ISIS flag, he had terrorist ties. This other guy, though, he was a Trump supporter, and he was just trying to make a statement about his PTSD or something. Maybe all that's true, but in the if the conspiracies, which oftentimes what they say are conspiracy theories, come true, it would show that maybe Merrick Garland and the Department of Defense have been worried more about moms going to school board meetings rather than people trying to kill Americans. They've been worried more about DEI in the military rather than about. They've been about all the wrong things. It seems if the narrative isn't. If the narrative is that these were both acts of terrorism and they were trying to kill people, it makes the government look bad, and God knows the government doesn't want to make itself look bad by telling us the truth.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's why we end up with 10 different versions of these stories before they settle on one that the mainstream media adopts as gospel, and that has a lot to do with this. So, and I thought, it's interesting. So we're, this is all happening on the 1st of January, right? And you're thinking, okay, it's 20 days until Trump takes office. So is this a message to Trump, or is this, last chance to really pull off some hijinks while there's a, frozen popsicle in the White House? Either way, I don't know. I mean, the timing was weird. It doesn't seem like those two events are connected, but I mean, they happen at almost the same time.
Yeah, and they say, well, it's just coincidence. They both went to Churro. It's just both coincidence. They both served out of Colorado Springs at one point. Maybe it is all coincidence, but since we seem to know so much more about these guys, and we still don't know anything about the Trump attempted assassins, it's like, why is it that they're so hardy and ready to tell us everything we need to know about the guy that tried to have the Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower? And yet, where's the guy that tried to shoot Trump from the bushes at Mar-a-Lago? What jail is he in? What has he been charged with? We saw Luigi get perp walked 2 weeks ago. We never saw these other guys get perp walked. I mean, there's just some things they want to give us every information, and the media seems to really wanting to dive in there. Then some things they just don't seem to give a rat's ass on, and they move on.
Well, and especially the kid on the roof that, almost took out Trump from Pennsylvania, where, the Heritage Foundation had tracked his phones and found a very, very disturbing pattern. And you and I think, had talked about it on the radio back in July, and had seen where he had gone. He had visited within a block of FBI headquarters several times before the events of that day on July 13th. He had also made at least one trip to New England and spent 3 days in a hotel in March 2024. When he's a kid, stayed at like a $300-400 a night hotel for no reason outside of tourist season. He seemed to have gone alone. You know, this is a kid who was what, 20? And what's he doing with all this travel? Why have none of these questions ever been answered? So, you know, I hope we start getting some answers when Trump takes office. I mean, you know, the media will spin and lie, just like the Washington Post did today about Trump's trade policy. They made up a story out of whole cloth, you know, about his tariff policy. So I think we're going to get that about these kinds of stories too, and everything else for the next 4 years.
Yeah, there's just something out there, and that's why I asked the question of the day, and everybody on all the platforms, make your comments. Do you think you're being told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about the New Orleans attack and the Vegas Trump Tower attack? I'm not sure if you saw this, but ESPN, the Sugar Bowl, when they had the pregame ceremony, they delayed the game. ESPN purposely, they said they lost track of time. The broadcaster lost track of time. They didn't cover the national anthem. They didn't cover the flyover. Right. They didn't cover the moment of silence. They didn't cover the Notre Dame people coming in running with the American flag, chants of USA. They skipped the whole thing. Now, the SEC coverage had that, but the ESPN coverage didn't. Of course, ESPN is run by Disney, which is run by a bunch of jackwagons in and of itself. So anybody who doesn't think the media is spinning a narrative and trying to keep stuff from you, just look at that game in New Orleans and see what ESPN not showed you, but what they didn't show you. Yeah,
that was a classless act. Of course, they knew all that was going to happen. Remember, the event had been postponed a day because of that terror incident. So it's not like they didn't know this was coming. So to play dumb, but it just shows you that the war against woke media is not over just because Trump won. In fact, if anything, Jimmy, I think they're going to pump it up tenfold, 100-fold. There's no way they're just going to, you know, change their ways. They will never change until they're down to their last viewer. And I can't believe anybody is still paying for ESPN at this point. But, you know, I mean, I don't know how anybody still pays for cable. It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely is crazy. Did you see this story? I'm sure you did, that Joe Biden's handing out Medal of Freedoms and Medal of Residence to people like Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton. We have Mark Oz Geist from the Benghazi story. He's coming up a little bit later. But he's handing out medals of freedom to George Soros. I mean, what an evil character he is. Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton, who said, what difference does it make when people died at Benghazi? He handed out something to Liz Cheney called a residential freedom button or something, to the chairman of the January the 6th committee. Joe Biden's just if he's handing out awards to people like this, wait till he starts handing out pardons.
It's handing out like candy, absolutely. And yeah, the pardons. So I think, you know, the next couple of weeks here you're really going to have to fasten your seatbelts. The next 2 weeks are going to be brutal, day after day after day of pure insanity, and with really no break at all. And like you said, the pardons and everything else. But yeah, handing out rewards like candy. If you saw the full list, by the way, I mean, there were some crazy names on there. You know, I guess they could take their award or whatever and hang. I mean, that was Liz Cheney's little, like you said, a little button or whatever it was she got. That was her reward for doing the Dems bidding for the last 4 years. So, I mean, I hope that was worth it. I know she's been probably angling for a MSNBC gig all this time, but I don't think they've actually ever hired her. So, you know, that's what happens. You play the left's game or whatever, and then they're going to say, well, at the end of the day, you know, we still don't really like you. So throw you under the bus.
Somebody just commented on the Facebook. They said these are participation awards. They just hand them out really easy. Participation trophy.
Exactly.
Participated.
Exactly.
I heard that, I guess, a European footballer, or we call it soccer here in America, Lionel Messi was nominated. He was supposed to get a Presidential Medal of Freedom. We're not sure why, but he didn't even show up, and he didn't even send a surrogate to pick it up. It's like, ship it to me. I don't know. Messi didn't even show up for the thing, and he didn't send a surrogate.
Well, why would you really want to be seen with Joe Biden at this point? I think the Biden-Harris regime is politically radioactive. It's an embarrassment. Everybody knows it. They can take, the rest of them can take their awards or whatever. I don't know what it really means to get one from that administration. So, I mean, I think that's pretty funny that he did that. They could mail him the award or whatever, but he obviously knew that from a public relations standpoint, why do you want to alienate, half your fan base or a lot more than that by being seen with Joe Biden?
I was watching the video. I didn't watch the whole ceremony. I just watched the video. Didn't listen to him mumble. I was seeing if he was sniffing anybody's hair, and then I realized all the participants were above 18, so he's not sniffing anybody's hair in those ceremonies. But I was wondering if he wanted to just strap on as many of those things as possible so he could stand behind in the sniffing position. But evidently, they were all too old for him to sniff.
He came pretty close to sniffing Hillary Clinton, though. He was very, very close. So he started to move, kind of downward, and so somebody must have stopped him, or somebody said, "Joe, no sniffing today." I'll never understand why he sniffs everybody. I mean, do you know anybody that sniffs everybody like that? I don't. Do you know anybody that walks around sniffing people? I mean, it's weird.
Why is he sniffing? Especially, it's very, very bizarre. He's a sniffer for sure. I'm telling you.
I mean, did you go to school with a guy who walked around sniffing everybody in the hallways, in high school? Because I don't remember that.
When you're 13 or 14, you might sniff to see if you put your deodorant on that day or something. And if you got picked on in elementary school, it's because you're picking your nose. You're a booger eater is what you got called. But we didn't have sniffers. We might have had a few booger eaters, but not sniffers.
That's because most people don't really smell that good. So, most of the time we don't smell that great. We really don't.
Yeah. Brian Maloney, you're right. It's going to be an absolutely positively wild ride. Any thoughts here in our final seconds together? Any thoughts about how wild is it going to get? And how does this Biden administration, is he going to go out with a bang of a lot of pardons and craziness, or is Joe Biden going to softly ride off into the sunset?
No, it's going to be 2 weeks of signing all kinds of crazy executive orders, trying to undo Trump before Trump takes office, like he's doing with oil drilling and everything else. So it's a bunch of trying to preemptively stop Trump. Trump's saying, "I'll reverse all of that," but Biden's trying to insert language that makes it harder for Trump to do that. So it'll be a battle there. But there will be some pardons for the ages that will have us shaking our heads for the next 20 years. Because, I mean, look at what he's shown us already.
30 seconds or so, but I want you to tell. I know there's been a lot of discussion on the Red Wave America page about kind of a battle. People say that MAGA is fighting itself. You've got Elon Musk saying that he wants to defend these tech workers that come in from overseas, and you got people like Steve Bannon and others saying, no, let's get rid of them and only put Americans in those jobs. What do you think is happening there? I know there's a lot of discussion. People can go to Red Wave America and find some of those stories, but give me your thoughts.
Well, the bottom line here is that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, I call him Ramaswampy, spent 2 weeks bashing MAGA on Twitter and elsewhere, bashing us and saying that, we were fools. The bottom line is 75% of those H-1B visas go to people from India. We don't have anything against people from India, but why are we creating a jobs program? High-tech companies, Silicon Valley, they hire only people from India because they can get them a lot cheaper. And there are also tax benefits to hiring them, like you don't have to pay Social Security tax on any of those guys. So the bottom line is, your kid graduates from college or whatever, wants to go work for one of these companies, can't get a job because he's not from India and not here on an H-1B visa. So bottom line is Steve Bannon is 150% right, and he's really more than ever a real leader here. Steve Bannon is.
Yep. Brian Maloney, thanks again for the access to Red Wave America, the Media Equalizer page. I appreciate you. Happy New Year, sir. We'll talk again very soon. Hey, I've got to go to Michael Letts. He's standing in the green room, and I make him wait too long. But let me play a real quick. Coming up, top of the hour, you want to hear, you don't want to say, Mark Oz Guy, smart guys for the Benghazi story, is going to be with us talking about Hillary Clinton getting that Medal of Freedom. So real quick, let me play. This is my other podcast, the Critical Mission podcast. This is a quick story that I had with a quick interview I had with Oz just a couple of months ago, and this is him talking about that fateful day of Benghazi. Let's play a little bit of this from my podcast, the Critical Mission podcast. Let's roll it.
Folks have heard the story, seen the movie, which depicts a lot of the situation at Benghazi, but you're up on the rooftop. You're trying to get help from the U.S. military. You're calling, please send in reinforcements, and walk us through what happened or what didn't happen with that request.
Well, I know Tonto, I believe, he had said that he had asked before they even left the consulate. Once the attack had started, they had asked for any type of air cover they could. See, I think he specifically asked for a Spectre gunship. We're in the Mediterranean. We knew where assets were. We know what is available, and ultimately, the only thing they ever sent was a drone. And they told us that the drone. Well, they didn't tell us then. After the fact, they told us that the drone wasn't armed, so it couldn't do anything. Which I really find hard to believe during that time that we have a drone anywhere in the world that's not armed.
Why were they, though, hesitant to actually send the help that had been requested? What was the fear of supporting you guys on the ground?
The politicians back in DC or somewhere were looking at things, and initially I think they were sending people, and this is what I've heard since, is that there was an airplane full of Marines above Benghazi at 1:30 in the morning, and they got turned around. I know there was other assets that were trying to get to us, and things prevented them from that.
All right, that's Oz, Mark Geist, and he was with me on the Critical Mission. Go find that on all the podcast streamings. All right, Michael Letts has been in the green room. He's with InvestUSA.org. He's been waiting patiently, and I appreciate we're running about, hard to believe, but we have so much content. We're running about 10 minutes behind on the show. So let me bring in Michael Letts, InvestUSA. Michael, Happy New Year, sir. How are you?
Same to you, Jimmy. It's always a privilege. And look here, your shows are so interesting. I don't mind sitting in the green room unless I have something else backed up. So we're good for this morning.
All right, good. Mark Geist is going to be with me. Oz is going to be with me from the Benghazi story. He's going to be with us top of the hour, about 20 minutes away, and he's going to talk about his thoughts. When he watched his friends die, he was wounded severely at Benghazi, and then he heard the testimony later of Hillary Clinton testifying. What difference does it make when they were asking what happened to Benghazi? So we'll get Oz's thoughts 9 o'clock this morning, and if anyone wants to stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. All right, let's dive into this thing, Michael. I've got this question that I've asked all the listeners. You're a law enforcement guy, and I do a compare and contrast. I look at what we know and don't know, what we've been told and haven't been told about the Trump assassination attempts, the guys that attempted to kill President Trump last year. And then I look at what happened in New Orleans and the Trump Tower in Vegas, and they say, hey, this all coincidence. It's all just a big coincidence that this happened within hours of each other. Coincidence that both of them happened in sin cities, if you will, Bourbon Street and Party Street and Vegas. Maybe it's all a coincidence, but it is interesting. And I want your take on this, that we know more, I think, about the two guys that did the New Orleans attack and the Trump Towers attack than we do about the guys that tried to kill the former and future president of the United States. We know where the guy charged his car at to get to Las Vegas. We probably know their underwear size by now. Something just doesn't. I'm not being told the truth. Am I missing something?
You're not missing anything. I mean, about questioning. You're missing a lot of the facts because they don't want you to know the facts. Let's talk real quickly. Let's take a look at Las Vegas. Let's take a look at Matt. Matt was with the 10th Special Forces Group. You're not being told the truth at all. And quite frankly, the problem is Matt had a lot of things to say. He was a Trump supporter, okay? But he had a lot of things to say of things that he had seen in special ops, and he was going to be a whistleblower. They couldn't afford that. So they decided to go on ahead and put together a little plot. We don't know for sure that that's Matt's body in there. In fact, quite frankly, I'm willing to say it's not. There's no way you could have a special ops guy that would fail. And when I mean fail, that was an explosion that a kindergartner could have done, quite frankly, Jimmy. And to be able to say that the body was burned beyond recognition, we had no dental records because he, quote unquote, committed suicide with a 50 cal. Impossible, by the way. No, I don't buy a bit of it. In fact, the fact of the matter is we know he was being tracked for days by the intelligence and by the Bureau because of what he had threatened to do about spilling the beans. So that's a whole other story. We could spend hours on that one, Jimmy. We don't believe a word that you've heard. Yep. Second of all, New Orleans, I mean, That was a catastrophe. They set it up that way. The security plans were all screwed up, and for them not to take responsibility for the fact that they know that they have been looking at him. How come Jimmy the Bureau always looks at people and then waits till after the fact to say, "Oops, I guess we made a mistake"? But yet, when it comes to January the 6th or something else, we can find a grandma within 30 seconds, and we can provide all the information that you need. Now, Jimmy, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We know why it's being done because they want to screw up the transition. They want to screw up what's coming up with the new administration, and they're pretty good at it, but they're not as good as they think they are.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the truth comes, how the truth comes out of this thing. Again, I anything that the FBI spent all this time looking at grandma and mom speaking at school board meetings and figuring out which Christian pastors were trying to open their churches during COVID. And the FBI spent all this time trying to go after Donald J. Trump. They spent all this time going after January the 6th protesters there. They spent all this effort and energy. Seems like maybe they didn't do a very good job at finding ISIS affiliates that might want to do something in New Orleans. Maybe the narrative here is that the Biden administration was so woke, if you will, and so beholden to an agenda that they didn't pay attention to the things they should pay attention to because they were so interested in harming their political foes and opponents.
I would agree, but I would add another layer on top of what you just said, Jimmy. Quite frankly, they wanted to make sure they had their elements in place that could provide disruption, that could screw up, either take out an incoming administration or screw it up so bad they would have a difficulty hitting the ground running. And that's what I think is the saddest part of all. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about collateral damage. They care about their ultimate narrative and objective. And that's what we're seeing accomplished up until the last day. The last day can't get here quick enough, Jimmy.
Yeah. The voice of Michael Letts, if you're just listening to the audio of this show, if you're not looking at the screen, you don't see it. Michael Letts has an organization that helps law enforcement agencies, and it's called investusa.org, investusa.org. I want to switch gears here in a second, but back to this, the truth that we're not being told about. You know, I had a friend that thought that, well, the guy might have been just trying to make a statement in Las Vegas. That's why he chose the Cybertruck, because he knew it was fortified and it would blow up and not out. He didn't want to kill anyone. He just wanted to get his message out. But it doesn't sound like even that settles your quandary and your spirit about that. That you think it's more than that.
It is more than that. He did want to get his message out, and quite frankly, he was looking at how to do that the best way. But the FBI, the narratives, the left liberal narratives, had something else in mind. They wanted to make sure that it appeared that he was totally silenced, that he was a kook, that he was a nut. I happen to know the boys over the 10th Special Forces. They're not kooks. They're not nuts. They're some of the best we've got in terms of operational logistics. He has seen things occur in this administration for the last 4 years that he couldn't stomach anymore. He was finding out the best way to make sure it got out. He knew good and well for him just to say, Jimmy, I want to be on your show, would be hard to get it to get the kind of putting it out there all rapidly, all quickly. So he come up with some other alternatives, and he found out they were after him and looking at him. He was trying to figure out how to get it done before they got him. And unfortunately, I don't think he was able to accomplish that. I think they got him before he could get his message out the way he wanted to.
Brian Maloney said there's video that he put up on his pages, the interview before you. I think it's at Red Wave America or the Media Equalizer. There's video. They said he might have shot himself before the blow up, but there's actually surveillance photo of him moving around in the cab of the truck. So the story just doesn't it doesn't coalesce and come to gel the way they want us to make it think it does.
No, not at all. You know, and here's what's interesting. The body's burned beyond recognition. So we, quote unquote, can't get a definitive ID. And the headshot would have destroyed the dental records. But yet we can find his ID. We can find all kind of letters and all in the glove compartment that weren't touched. Come on, Jimmy. Now, I mean, a third grader knows better than that.
Yeah. Michael Letts, again, if you're just listening, this Michael Letts, investusa.org. Real quick, we'll follow up with together. Michael, love having you on the program. We'll follow up on that topic, I'm sure, as the days get develop and we find more and more craziness happening out there. We'll talk more about it. There's a story, though, in law enforcement today that the nation of Mexico is offering a feature in which they're developing an app basically that any of their illegals that are walking the streets of America can be notified via the Mexican app as to whether they're about to be arrested and or deported. Give me your thoughts. What's happening with this app development with the country of Mexico?
Well, the Biden administration has been an expert on that. They've just developed a recent new app for in the month of December, going into January here, to help notify as many people as possible to come across before the borders are sealed. So they love doing apps. And yes, quite frankly, the Mexican government has been coordinating with the Biden administration. But I hate to tell them this, but that's all going to end and end very quickly. We're going to shut all that down. And quite frankly, my recommendation, and I know they really don't like this, is if they can't seem to get their act together with the drug cartels who are killing Americans through fentanyl and all. My suggestion is we go ahead and help them with that cause. We go ahead and send down special forces, and we send out a Marine division if we have to. We could probably stop in Mexico City by the time we get there, but we'll clean it out for them if they don't not able to do it themselves. And I think that's fair and applicable, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because when Donald Trump takes over, Tom Homan takes over, I think that Mexico is going to really have a little come to Jesus, or in their word, a come to Jesus meeting, because all these little shenanigans going to happen. Tom Homan's not going to tolerate this kind of crap with Mexico.
No, he's not. You know, Tom and I have discussed these matters, and quite frankly, I think the president even agrees that, you know, we're not going to be dictated. Our security and the safety of our people is not going to be dictated by anyone, especially by Mexico. So figure out how to get on board so we can all benefit, or we'll clean up the mess for you. And I don't think you want us to do that.
It's going to be, I've always said, and I know a lot of friends that love to go to Cabo and Cancun and Cozumel and stuff, but at some point you're going to have to, not just the tariffs, you're going to have to tell the Mexican president, we're about to declare you a narco-terrorist state if you don't get control of the stuff coming across your border, and we're going to treat you as if you're any other terrorist state. We will treat you that way if you don't clean up your corruption in your government. Why don't we just do that? Just threaten to declare them a narco-terrorist state, and we'll treat them like every other terrorist country out there.
I think what the American people don't realize, Jimmy, is this. We subsidize almost every government in the world. You take our subsidies away, and the vast majority of those countries will collapse, including Mexico. And they don't want to hear that. They get very upset with me. I lived there for 15 years, grew up in Mexico. I know their system like the back of my hand. And quite frankly, that's the facts of the matter, Jimmy. They can't survive without us. And it's about time that we start taking a position, America first. If you don't want to help protect our people and help protect our country, then we don't have anything to do with yours. And you'll collapse. And you'll collapse very quickly doing so.
Yeah. Michael Letts, I want to always give a push for Invest USA. We talked about it in November, December, into the year giving. Besides being a great guest on the program, you have a nonprofit organization in which you try to provide protection to officers, law enforcement officers, SWAT teams across America. Talk about what Invest USA does, and as people kind of plot out what charities they want to be a part of in 2025, I hope they'll look at Invest USA.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Invest USA has been in existence for over 30 years. We first provided bulletproof vests. They were called concealable vests, ones that would only stop a pistol. Now the drug cartels and the terrorists have gone to long-range automatic rifles, and so we've developed active shooter vests that will protect against that. But only 10% of law enforcement have them. That's 90% across the country who don't have the protection yet. Jimmy, these are the same men and women that we're going to be asking in the next days. We're talking about days ahead to lead the tip of the spear to begin to round up these drug cartels, these child sex traffickers, these terrorists, these villains that have been let in illegally all across the country. They're not going to be anxious to get on a little bus and go home. We expect opposition. So what the least we can do is provide the protection so they have a fighting chance to come home to their kids, to their families. So if at all possible, make a donation to Invest USA. Our website is www.investusa.org. It's a charity.org. Let's make sure they have active shooter vests when they go in to confront these bad guys, because they're going to need it in the days ahead.
Michael, that's always a pleasure, sir. Happy New Year to you. Thanks for your patience. I know we're running behind this morning, but I appreciate you, my friend, and appreciate your commentary. And as always, we'll have you back in a couple of days, I'm sure. InvestUSA.org. Michael, God bless and Happy New Year. All right, real quick, I want to remind you that coming up in just 5 or so minutes, Mark Osgeist is going to be with us. He's from the Benghazi story, talking about Hillary Rodham Clinton getting her Medal of Freedom strapped around her neck by old Joe Biden this past weekend. We get your thoughts on that as well. Mark Guy's going to be, but remember, the great meme there. Today is a great day to remind more people about Benghazi as Hillary Clinton got her medal. Never forget the people that died at Benghazi, thanks in part by the policies of Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barry Hussein Obama. So that's very, very, very true to remember that. All right, real quick, I want to play a couple of things for you. Number one, if any of you, the Patreon subscribers out there, if you're not a part of our Patreon page, please do. There's a free level, there's a paid level. The paid level gets some great content that is not released to the public. You got to be there. Right before the holidays, I did an interview with Dr. John Thorpe, and he was unleashed. I mean, I'm telling you, it was a fiery interview. And I'm going to play just a snippet of that interview with you. He was talking about he wrote a book, and it deals with the booger cootie virus. We got to be careful what you say, or you get strapped by the algorithms. And the little effer, the Dr. Scarf, Fauci. He talked about that, and he talked about how hospitals were being paid by Health and Human Services because they had to give the poke in the arm. They had to give the poke in the arm, and if anybody gave false narrative out there, they would lose their federal funding. And a lot of hospitals made bazillions of dollars. If you're on the patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, go subscribe to it. All these shows go up there and they're free, but there's also paid content. It's $9.95 a month, 7-day free trial. Go find the paid content, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. And this is just a snippet of the interview that I did with Dr. John Thorpe just before Christmas. This hit this morning. All of you Patreon subscribers, you got a notification. Roll the tape, Dr. John Thorpe, just a snippet of the interview that hit this morning for the paid content. Go.
Bought everybody off by money. Over $5.5 trillion was spent. And even the New York Times and Washington Post, even these liberal rags, don't know and cannot account where it went. I'll tell you where it went. My research team has published extensively on it. It went to bribe every single thread of the fabric of our society to enter into these quid pro quo arrangements, quid pro quo called cooperative care agreements. These are medical organizations, hospitals, pharmacies, churches, individuals of prominence, mainstream media, and they were allowed to keep the money without paying it back as long as they did not deviate from the narrative. That's exactly why many physicians, including myself, who spoke out, I was fired from SSM Health July 29th, 2023. I was heralded as a model physician for this massive Catholic healthcare system, yet the CEO, Laura Kaiser, and one of her underlings called me into the office and said, hey, we have to let you go. You've been a model physician, but we have to let you go. No cause. And by the way, if you sign this agreement, we'll give you 90. They tried to bribe me with a non-disclosure or non-disparagement clause. I said, no, thank you. And I was allowed 120 days of work.
That's paid content, my friend. I'm showing you stuff that you want to see the whole thing. It's fiery. You got to see Dr. John Thorpe. He's on my paid Patreon.com page, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. There's free content there, but there's also that interview with Dr. John Thorpe that released this morning. It's a powerful one, about 40 minutes or so, and you want to find out what really was happening during the booger cootie virus. If you want to find out what was really happening, you got to watch that interview with Dr. John Thorpe. It is powerful and hit this morning. So go subscribe. 7-day free trial. 7-day free trial indeed. And 7-day free trial. It's $9.95 a month. I guarantee you, I've tried my best to make the content very valuable. And there will be content on the paid side that is not going to be seen in the regular podcast edition. Okay, so you're not going to get on the daily update. There's stuff behind the paywall you got to do. I also need to remind you, we're still under construction here. We're a couple of days from now, we'll unleash what's behind me for the Unleashed Daily Update. There'll be a new backdrop there. And we haven't mentioned this the whole time, but if you're interested in sponsorship, you want to be a sponsor, an advertiser, whether you're a national business or a local business, we'll make it we've got some packages available. We're going to start announcing some of our advertisers soon. It's a first come, first serve. We have a founding fathers package, founding mothers as well. And basically what that means is you're going to be able to lock in your rate of advertising and promotion for a long time, and it won't go up on you for a period of time, because we want you to join us on the ground floor of this effort. And I appreciate all of you wanting to advertise. Just get the information. We're not going to send a salesperson out and try to talk you into anything, but we are going to just send you the information. And there's some packages for advertising, like our studio sponsor. There's only going to be one of those. And if that person happens to be a dog walker, then that would be the only dog walker allowed on the program. But you get the idea. If it's a coffee company, that would be the only coffee company allowed on the program. So advertise with us. We're locking down these founding fathers, founding mothers, founding advertising companies. And again, if you're just curious and want to find out again, there's no pressure. We're not sending out anybody to knock on your door. Producer Chad and I are too busy to do that. So just send me an email, info@jimmylakey.com. We'll send you the documents out, and you can make a decision on what level of that. There's lots of packages, big packages, small packages. And first of all, it's a way to get your business word out about your business. But second of all, it's also a way for you to support the program. So if you're not a business or you don't want to advertise, maybe whatever level you want to advertise, we'll promote you, name the studio after, whatever you got to do. We'll do all that. Or just read about your product, show your logos. We can do any kind of level. But if you don't have any of that, that's not of interest. Go to the Patreon page. All right, coming up, we got Mark Oz Geist here, and he's, I believe, entered the green room. But real quick, I just came back from Africa for my charity work, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, and I want to play a snippet of a video. One of the things we did, we went to our Legacy Christian Academy that I'm building there, and we cleaned it head to toe, got the water, the soap, and we washed windows and scrubbed. And this is a bit of what happened in Africa just this past week. One of the work days that we had at our school, Legacy Christian Academy, through my charity, Rivers Promise. We'll come back with Mark Geist in just a moment, but roll the tape. This is last week in Africa, 1 week ago. This is a fun day at Legacy Christian Academy. We've got a lot of the parents here, a lot of the moms, and we decided that since it's winter break, we should do some, I wouldn't call it spring cleaning, but we will call it winter break cleaning. So we've emptied out all the classrooms. We've got an army of moms. We're about to get our hands dirty, and we're about to scrub some floors and wash some windows so that when the kids come back from break to Legacy Christian Academy, it's clean. It's cleaning day. I told you it's cleaning day. We get the floor wet and we just squeegee it right out of the classrooms. It's hot in here too. No airflow. My hat is, you can see the sweat. Hey everybody, it's Jimmy in Rwanda on the campus of our Legacy Christian Academy. It's cleaning day. We've emptied out all the classrooms of desks. We have an army of people, including myself. We've been scrubbing floors, washing windows, getting ready for the next semester. You can even see the sweat that has accumulated in my Rivers Promise hat. Listen, it is New Year's Eve, and we want to finish New Year's Eve very, very strong. We could use your help to get across the finish line on budget and with our goals. Again, we're taking care of kids, sending them to school. We're feeding kids over 10,000 meals a month. Kids get nutrition that normally wouldn't eat. Kids get education. None of the children pay to go to school. They're all sponsored through Rivers Promise. So hey, help us out. Year-end donation is needed. $30, man. That feeds a kid for an entire month. $65 feeds them and sends them to school. Maybe you can do $6,500. Listen, help us finish up this year strong. We have until midnight tonight. And then you get that big tax deduction, and God knows we all like tax deductions, right? Hey, but it's for the kids. I mean that. God bless you. Happy New Year. Riverspromise.org. Riverspromise.org. I hope to see a little donation from you. God bless. Thanks. Happy New Year. All right, that was just last week in Rwanda. Our work of charity, as I talked about with Invest USA. I know Mark Geist has some charitable work. If you're looking at 2025, I want you to find those charities that you're going to support. And I would suggest not just support them one time. That's important to do at one time. But maybe whether it's Invest USA, Mark Geist will give a charitable organization that he'll talk about. Find those charities and give them a monthly donation, man. Put on a recurring schedule. It helps them plan and budget. I mean, we love it at my charity when we get a large check, but it's also even better when we have just a consistent monthly donation. So, hey, it's 2025. You're trying to figure out your budget for the year and where you're going to give. Give to your church. I want you to give to your church, but after that, find out the charities you want to support, and don't just support them one time. If you can, support them monthly. I think all of them would appreciate that. All right. Here's the news story we got to get to. Over the weekend, we found out that Joseph Rubalud Biden decided to hand out some Medal of Freedom awards to highest honor you get for the president. He handed one of those out to Hillary Rodham Clinton. And you can't think of the Hillary Rodham Clinton reign as Secretary of State without thinking about the bungling of Benghazi. And right there on the screen, you see those who died at Benghazi. And then when Hillary Rodham Clinton was asked about Benghazi, she said, "What difference does it make at this time?" Remember that famous video, her testifying in front of Congress? What difference does it make? I want to bring into the program friend Mark Oz Geist. You saw him depicted in the movie 13 Hours, the Benghazi story. He's a Benghazi survivor. He was wounded severely at Benghazi, but the Lord kept him here on the planet for a reason. And Mark Oz Geist is now with us. And let me get to the right button, and I'll bring him onto the stage. Mark, good morning and Happy New Year, sir.
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year.
Great to chat with you. I just want to dive right in to this story. When you heard that Hillary Clinton was getting a Medal of Freedom from the President of the United States, and you lived through the reign of Hillary Clinton, a lot of what you experienced at Benghazi was probably because of some policies. You heard her testify in front of Congress. What difference does it make? Some people died at this point. What difference does it make? Was terrorists out on a wall because the plan? You just heard her dismissing everything so flippantly, and now she gets a Medal of Freedom award. What were you thinking this weekend?
You know, really, it's the state of the country and the state of giving out accolades to people, and that really don't deserve it. All it does is diminish the purpose or the notoriety and value of the medal that they're giving. You know, I mean, she's up there with a great crowd. I mean, George Soros, Hillary Clinton, side by side, getting the medal. You know, of all of those I saw, those are the two big ones that, really diminish that. What have they done for America other than try to turn it into a socialist country? And, Hillary Clinton, not only what she did in Benghazi, but what led up to that happening is even worse than that, in my opinion. The overthrow of Gaddafi and then what's came with that. Gaddafi was a bad player, but he was, the whole history of what happened around that time period in 2011 leading up to 2012 was, you had groups that were, Gaddafi had actually started falling away from his despondence towards America and was doing what we wanted him to do. And that was going after bad guys that were having terrorist training camps, Al-Qaeda, ISIS in the Benghazi, Derna, Eastern Libya region. And that's really what kind of started all that. And then his sons were actually in DC trying to negotiate him advocating his leadership there. And there's reports out, and I had heard this myself when I was in Iraq in 2011 when it occurred, is that his sons were trying to advocate for him, or were trying to lobby for him to advocate his leadership and go to a third country and get out of there. And they said no. And it really came from Hillary Clinton, I believe, but it came out of the State Department, so obviously it had to come from her. Was no, you're not gonna. We don't want him to do that. We want to. Basically, it come out that she wants to kill him. I think it was all a political stunt, and there's a lot of behind scenes stuff, and that in itself was just as bad as what happened, and the fact that she left 4 Americans to die in Libya.
Gaddafi, if folks maybe go back in history, Gaddafi, if I recall, was starting to get his head and his heart right and start behaving himself a little bit better because he saw what happened to Saddam Hussein and he didn't want to have that happen to him. So he started behaving himself. Do you have any gut instinct as to why Gaddafi is a bad guy, but he was behaving himself. Why were they so hell-bent on not accepting his new behavior? What was Hillary Rodham Clinton? Did he pull her hair in elementary school one day? Did she did he call her a fat tub of lard? I mean, why does she have this disparaging viewpoint of Gaddafi?
I think that for her, I don't even think it had anything to do with his disparaging look. He could have been freaking one of the disciples, and if it was against what she wanted, she would have done the same thing. I think that she saw what President Bush did, won in the first Gulf War, and how that came out politically for him when he put together the coalition to push Saddam out of Kuwait. And she saw what that did for him politically, how that raised him up in stature, and that he did this, was able, look at the statesman. And she knew in 2011 that she was going to be running for president in 2016. This is all, in my opinion, pre-staged. And if she could show that she could put a coalition together to overthrow this dictator Gaddafi, who is, the mastermind of the Lockerbie, Scotland bombing, the airplane that got blown up over Lockerbie, Scotland, and all the bad things that he's done. And I'm not giving him a pass on any of that, but all of that is just something that she utilized to advocate or to project herself as being a world leader, as being a statesman, and trying to set up her stance for running for president.
Wow. Mark Oz, guys, if you're just listening to the audio of the program, he's a Benghazi attack survivor. You probably saw the movie 13 Hours about Benghazi. Mark's portrayed there. Maybe you've seen him speak and seen him on the Fox News, etc. Glad to have him here this morning. That's the voice you're hearing if you're just listening to the audio of today's. Listen, Mark, you were severely hurt at Benghazi and had to be extricated from there, ended up, I believe, in Germany in hospital to recover. I mean, it devastated you financially. I mean, just all sorts of hell broke loose in your life because of Benghazi. As you were recovering, were you paying attention to what Hillary Clinton was doing to cover her ass regarding Benghazi? Her testimony in front of Congress about they're trying to find out who these people have perpetrated the attack, and she famously screams, "What difference does it make?" Like somebody's ex-wife saying, "Put down the toilet seat." I mean, she's just a nagging old witch in the way she talked about Benghazi. You were severely injured. Your life was devastated because of that. Were you paying attention to how flippantly she was trying to kind of dismiss it as no big deal?
Yeah, that's, of course I was, and so was the rest of the guys. And that's really kind of what projected us into and guided us, was one of the things to tell the true story that happened on the ground. Because what she was saying, in our book, in our movie, that it really wasn't political. There was not a political basis behind it. But it was driven by the fact that the story of what really happened there on the ground, of those of us that lived it, wasn't being told. It was getting lost in all of the politics of things. And that's why we started what we did. And eventually that is, again, this is my opinion, and I think there's you could substantiate it from others as well. But if it wasn't for the way us coming out doing the book and then getting involved in that, the investigation into Hillary or into the Benghazi instance itself would never have happened. And if that hadn't happened, they would have never found the private email server that she had in her basement, which, because of, and this is what I love about how the Lord works, no matter what, he has a plan. And whether it was to keep her from running for president or keep her from winning the presidency in 2016. It all started when she made that decision, and the wrong decision to kill Gaddafi instead of just neutralize the threat. in a way that would be beneficial to all involved and not kill all the people that was there. And because of that, Benghazi happened in 2012, which then led to the investigation into Benghazi, which led them to find the private email server, which exposed Hillary Clinton for the person that she was even greater, because even people on the left, I think, had a hard time understanding and accepting that she was putting herself always above the law, which is something that President Trump used to win that election. And we got President Trump for the first term, and we got him again now. So I think it's all been all for a purpose.
Real quick, what was the biggest lie that you remember Hillary Clinton? Because you guys told the story about Benghazi, what was happening on the ground. What was the kind of a summary of the narrative she was spinning versus the reality of what was really happening?
The biggest thing there is the fact that it was all generated by a video or a movie that was made several years before that had gained traction, and that it was just a protest that had gone array instead of it was a planned attack. And we know that now through open source intel. A good friend of mine and of our team she was actually there the day before Benghazi actually happened and had left, is Sarah Adams, and her and Boone have a book out called Know Thy Enemy. And if you want to go read that, look it up, go buy it, read it. And that'll tell you what we found through open source intel, all the way up to the leader of Al Qaeda, where the order came from, how it was orchestrated, the different groups that were involved. Actually knowing that we've been able to obtain the names of several of the guys that launched the mortars that killed Ty and Glenn and injured me. And all of that. And that's been turned over to the FBI because it's still an open case of murder. And obviously, because of the Joe Biden administration, there's nothing been done about it.
Wow. So you're telling me that you, through open source intelligence, you guys have found out who perpetrated the attack. They killed people. An ambassador was killed. I mean, all these things happened. Your colleagues were killed there trying to defend the complex. And we know who did it. We know they're still roaming the streets somewhere. And the FBI and the Biden administration has done nothing with the information.
Yes, that's pretty much what the case is.
It's fascinating. It brings me kind of this thing of these alphabet soup agencies. They've been focusing on moms trying to defend their kids on the public school, attending school board meetings. They've been focusing on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion in the military, and transgenderism and all this other narrative. It seems as if maybe they should be investigating finishing up and holding people responsible for Benghazi. It seems maybe they could have been spending more time figuring out, was this really an ISIS person that drove a truck into the Bourbon Street? How did this guy get radicalized? The guy that was in Las Vegas. Give me your thoughts on those cases, because seems as if they're telling us the truth, some of those we should have known that these guys were unhinged and part of some kind of a group or what have you, but our military just seems to the alphabet soup agencies seem to have been focused on the wrong things.
Well, and to that, I do want to say that I know a lot of the guys that are on the ground, the field agents, the people out there that are doing the day-to-day, they are good people that are doing their job and really trying to go out and catch bad guys. The bureaucracy that's inside the Beltway that has developed over the years is what the problem is. And that's where a lot of that DEI and all of that has been focused instead of on what you said. I mean, we should have been focused over the last 4 years on securing this country as a nation, securing our borders, and ensuring that we do not allow bad guys to come into it. And we failed at that. We know that there's several, probably 100 or more, if not thousands of radicalized individuals that are part of ISIS or Al Qaeda, that are sleeper cells that have come across our southern border, and they have not given up on coming and attacking us. I know it's what you've been starting to hear, and there's some people that are bringing it out and understanding that. But why has it taken so long? And we as a nation have the responsibility to protect our citizens. That is the whole purpose of the federal government, is to protect the citizens and our way of life. And this administration, the outgoing administration, has failed at that dismally, in my opinion. And we have to protect ourselves. I'm a big 2A person. Been a board member of the NRA, a lifetime member, and we have to take care of ourselves. That is the whole purpose of the Second Amendment, is to protect ourselves both from foreign adversaries as well as those that end up in our country. And I'm not advocating that people go out and start their own clan or whatever, but be prepared and understand and watch where you go and how you're going to places and what the security measures are, because it is up to us to protect ourselves as well.
You mentioned these sleepers that have crossed our southern border and they're camping out in America. Do you think we're at risk now that they know that Tom Homan's going to be on the job here real soon and they're going to be threatening deportation? They're going to start looking for these criminal elements. Are these potential terrorists going to start rushing their efforts and maybe try to carry something out against America while they still have the chance?
And again, I don't want to sow any fear in people because I don't know. Haven't seen anything or been privy to any intelligence that would lead me to a timeline of when it might happen. If I reversed the role and if I was a bad guy in the country wanting to do that, depending on how deep I am in my cell and what kind of cover I believe that I have, would be a determining factor on that. But I would probably be planning for something if they started coming after me on how to exercise the mission that has been given to me, especially from the extreme Islamists that are out there. And again, it's not everybody that follows Islam is not a bad person. I mean, I've had Muslims save my life. I've had Muslims try to kill me. I've had other religions try to kill me as well in my travels around the world. It's not the religion, it's not the sect or the race. It is the evil that has been perpetrated and has been absorbed into those that have been radicalized, whether it's whatever group around the world that it may be. I mean, we've had those problems in our country in the past and we've eliminated them for the most part, and we need to do it again.
Mark Geist is my guest. Oz from the Benghazi story. If you're just listening to the audio portion of the program, that's the voice you're hearing. Mark, you mentioned the Lord earlier and how he works things out and gets things right where they're supposed to be. In your life, it got you to doing the work you're doing now, and I want to make sure we plug that. I tell people, hey, to start the year, you're looking for things to support, and you have an organization called Shadow Warriors Project, and the website shadowwarriorsproject.org. It's on the screen right now, and this is a need that you began to fulfill because you were a shadow warrior. You were not protected by the confines of the Pentagon and the Veterans VA. I mean, there's some support that you didn't get because you were a contractor, and you now want to support those other contractors out there. Talk about the Shadow Warriors Project and what you're working on now and how you're serving.
Yeah, we've initially we started because we wanted to take care of those that serve in the shadows, those that serve with these agencies that you'll never hear. You'll never know about when they get killed or injured. Most of them, if they're contractors, have a workman's comp policy. And that's what they have to depend on to take care of themselves from a medical standpoint. And we all know how well workman's comp works. It's a bureaucracy that is really difficult to manage and to traverse. We want to help those that get injured or killed in that and their families. And our big goal this coming year is a program that my wife has started. We've been doing it for about 2 years, and it's a caregivers program. And it's not just for contractors, it's for contractors' spouses, it's for law enforcement spouses, and it's for veteran spouses, because the true heroes are our spouses, because, we go out and do what we do. When we come home broken, beaten, with the mental, the brain injuries, all of that, they're the ones that put their pain aside and help us. And, every time I deployed, I never realized it at the time, but every time I deployed, that's trauma on my wife and my child, on my children, because they don't know if I'm coming back. Then we come back and they've got to deal with everything that we have done and what the big issues are, and they put themselves aside and step up to take care of the family. And that is one of our biggest missions right now. Our biggest fundraising is for that. So if you care about women, you care about those that are doing that serve in the shadows. Again, that's what they do, and it's a deeper shadow than what we ever served in, because they don't always know who we work for or where we're going. And we've got to take care of them as much as we do our veterans, our contractors, and our first responders.
ShadowWarriorsProject.org is the website. That's Mark Osgeist, a Benghazi survivor, Benghazi hero. ShadowWarriorsProject.org. Mark, as we start 2025, obviously in a couple of weeks, we have a new administration coming in. And you've seen kind of the underbelly of America. You felt betrayed by people like Hillary Clinton and the government. Do you have a sense of optimism that it's a new day in America forthcoming? I mean, what's your sense right now? What are you feeling here?
The night of the election, once it was announced that President Trump had won, to me, the people I know that I traverse with, I'm familiar with, the friends that follow me, those that follow me that are not necessarily friends. There was a significant change in attitude, a significant change, I think, in the aura of this country, and in the hope that we aren't lost, that we haven't gone to the wayside like so many empires in the past that have, and I think it's still going, and it's still working for that. And I believe that the Lord had a lot to do with it. He uses people that we'd never expect to change, to make significant changes in the lives of others and in the world. I never would have expected to be where I'm at, doing what I do and helping the people that I do. And if it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be here. I should have died at least 3 times that night, and I did die on the airplane flying from Tripoli to Lundstil, Germany. They had to intubate me and resuscitate me. And if it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be here. And I feel compelled to have that, to follow his way in that mission. And, it's just kind of like the 200 and some thousand unaccounted for children that came across our southern border. To me, that's a black eye on America. And we as a country have to fix that. We need to locate them. We need to make sure that they are with their legal guardians and that they are safe, whether that is in this country or outside of this country. They came here because of our previous administration. They were allowed to. So we need to figure that out and help them and save our children. That's one thing the Lord Jesus Christ commanded us to do, is to protect the children. And that's another project in itself that I'm working on with several other groups, kind of trying to see what we can do to make a difference in that aspect as well.
You mentioned the Lord, and I like giving hope on the program. It's an important message, whether you served in the military, whether you just had a bad 2024, is that you're sucking oxygen in 2025 for a reason, and better days are yet to come. God's got a plan. We're all still here, and I'll let you take the soapbox or take the pulpit here, and kind of give that word of encouragement for somebody who feels like giving up in 2025. Maybe they feel like it's their best days are behind them. Your thoughts on that? The pulpit is yours, Mark Geist.
It's simple to me. It's the hard times that I've had, the failures that I've had in my life are only things that have made me stronger, that have turned me around, because you don't remember the wins as much as you do the struggles. And what you have to do is look to those struggles as ways to improve your life, and what to do, what not to do again, and how to do something different. And, the Lord is in your life, whether you know it or not. It's up to you to accept him as your savior. If you accept him as your savior, you are saved. That's all it is to it. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, no way would I ever thought that I would be doing what I'm doing. I was not an advocate, or I wouldn't say I was never not an advocate for the Lord. I just didn't voice it a lot. And I really try to do it by the way I live, and just making every day, when I wake up, am I in this life 100%? I'm going to commit to that. And that is my commitment, to make a difference in other people's lives. People have made differences in mine. The Lord has made a difference in mine. Now it's my turn to pass that on. And everybody can do that. It doesn't have to be something that's grandiose. It may be something as simple as smiling and saying hello to somebody who looks downtrodden or that looks like they're depressed, someone in your family. It is up to us to take care of one another. The Lord put us on this earth for a purpose, and he has a purpose for you. All you got to do is look to him and work that, what he tells you, because he's going to come into your heart, and it ain't going to change overnight. And there's those out there that say, well, why would he want me? Why would he want me? I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. Go back, like I said earlier, if you go back into history and you read the Bible, or you even read history, you look at the people that God used to make a difference. I mean, he used a boy to slay a giant. He used a slingshot, which nowadays is a toy, in the right hands to slay a soldier. You look at Solomon, you look at David, all of them had their own struggles, and those struggles were turned into things that worked for the Lord to get to where we're at. And I just encourage people, find your church, and the church is when two or more people come together to praise the God. It doesn't have to be the structure, but find your mentor, read the Bible, pray, and understand that he will make a difference in your life.
You mentioned the Bible characters that were real people. Moses was a murderer, and he led people. I mean, he actually killed a man. He was a wanted criminal, by the way. The Pharaoh wanted to kill him for killing one of his soldiers. David was an adulterer, and he conspired to commit murder. I mean, these were famous characters in the Bible. And then you get these people in modern day that are all self-righteous about, well, Donald Trump did this or Donald Trump did that. I'm like, God always chooses the strange things to confound the self-righteous. And anybody out there finds himself, I can't support Donald Trump because he did this in his life, did this in his life. Well, you probably would have hated King David and Moses and all sorts of other Bible characters. I mean, Paul, the Apostle Paul, was a murderer, a mass murderer of Christians. I mean, he actually committed genocide against Christians. So all you self-righteous people that want to say, I can't like Trump and his personality, get over your damn self.
Well, and here's the first thing is look back into yourself. Have that introspective look at what you've done. Okay, if you were going to be that person on the outside of you judging you to be where you're at, look at what that is. Don't judge others because it's not your place to judge.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I appreciate you hopping on. And your website is shadowwarriorsproject.org. Folks looking for their charities they want to support this year. A one-time donation. I know you would appreciate it if they want to just become a recurring monthly donor during 2025. And you do your work, and people can learn more at shadowwarriorsproject.org. If they want to get the book and follow more, is there everything on shadowwarriorsproject.org?
Yep, you can get there. We sell the book. It's autographed. And we also have some other merch on there. Anything to support us would be great. And again, like you said, Jimmy, is, those some of our best donors are those reoccurring donors that are $5, $10. That over a long period of time, being able to depend on that and know that, I mean, that money makes a difference. It doesn't matter how little it is or how much. I can guarantee you, that's the first way you can start, by helping my organization, Jimmy's organizations. He's doing great work in Africa, doing great work in everything that he does. Those things is making a difference in somebody else's life, no matter how much it is. And I know because of this outgoing administration, times are hard, and we've seen a lot of our reoccurring donations drop off because it is too tight for them. And we're, have hope. Have grace and understanding, because we are going to change. This country is going to change, and we are going to start being the greatest country ever again. And that is what's going to happen. And you know what? Let's make a difference together, because all is one. We can make that difference.
Yeah. ShadowWarriorsProject.org. Mark, let's do it again here real soon. Shadow Warriors Project. There's comments coming in on the screen. Rich says, awesome testimony. I love the testimonies of faith from you and the majority of your guests. So we try to bring faith into this thing. We ain't afraid of the shame to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Mark, I appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, thank you very much. God bless.
God bless you. Happy New Year. We'll do it again. Mark Oz, guys, his website again, Shadow Warriors Project. Hey, Mark's right about the charitable or giving. I've got people that will send a check of a nice check once a year, once or twice a year. Maybe I hear from every few days. But I've got people that send $20 a month, and it's just a consistent $20 a month. We know it. Mark's organization knows that. So sometimes you think, well, I can't make that big, fantastic donation, with a couple of zeros on it. I can't do that. Well, maybe it's $5 whatever organization, and do something. I always tell people, don't take away the money that you give to your church. Give that first, foremost. And then if you have something left over, find an organization or those organizations you want to support. And that's what we do. All right. Boy, we've gone way long opening New Year. You know what this is today? You're part of a day in history. Jimmy, how did your shoe gifts go? The shoes were fantastic. We gave hundreds of pairs of shoes away. I posted some of those on my Facebook, facebook.com/riverspromise of the shoe distribution. It was the kids' Christmas party. I was not there because I got there after Christmas, but the shoes went great. There's some photos of the kids holding up their shoes, and they were very proud of their shoes. If you go to facebook.com/riverspromise, there's a lot of video of my time and more video coming up today from my time there last week, and the week before was our Christmas party. But all of you who contributed shoes, feminine hygiene products for the ladies, young ladies there. We bought some mattresses and blankets. There's a house dedication. We gave a lady a house, a widow a home. That video is going up today. We gave her the keys to a new home there that we built for her. So all of that's going up to facebook.com/riverspromise, and stand by for that. That will get that up. If you want to support my charity, riverspromise.org. Somebody just posted, Jimmy, a great show. Are you going to talk about Colorado politics? Because if you're listening around America right now, you might know that I was for years a Colorado-based talk show host. Yes, we have already talked on this thing. We're talking about some Colorado issues. We're going to talk Colorado local issues as they come up. We'll also talk national issues. It's just kind of whatever's making the news right now. But don't worry, I've got a sharp eye on the state of Colorado. Matter of fact, you go to facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Our esteemed governor, Jared Polis, has continue to screw up Colorado. He wants to run for president. His legacy, though, says he's a feckless fool as a leader. And I've got a couple of stories. You know, for January 1 in Colorado, we got to talk about that this week. We went hands-free in our cars. If you touch your phone, you can get arrested or something. They'll put you in the pokey, or they do something bad to you, right? If you touch your phone in a car. And, you know, I don't want people to use their phone in the car. I think people get real distracted in driving, and I agree with that. But I mentioned that my son, we got back from Africa after the first of the year, and I said, hey, don't forget if you're driving, don't be playing with your phone. I tell him that anyway, but now you can get a ticket for it. And my son, chip off the old block that he is, says, well, we haven't solved homelessness in Colorado. We haven't solved any real problems, but thank God we tackled the phone issue, right? That's what Jared Polis does. He's a feckless idiot when it comes to leadership in Colorado. And any of you that hear of him on the national stage as some moderate governor, he's not a moderate governor. He's as radical as they come. And think of the legacy of Jared Polis. His legacy is that he's banned the cell phones from the cars and you're hands-free, which maybe is a safety issue, but really that's your big issue. He's put wolves out in Colorado that didn't need to be here and destroying livestock and livelihoods for the agricultural community. Oh, and he changed up the school mascots because he didn't want you can be a warrior if you're a Roman warrior, but if your depiction is an American, Native American, like the Redskins or something like that, the Chiefs, you can't be that in Colorado. So this is what Jared Polis has really accomplished in America. The bottom line is he has not done anything to improve Colorado. Jared Polis has made Colorado a much worse state. I came to Colorado 28 year, December the 30th, 28 years ago. I put 25 on the Facebook, but that was a typo. I just naturally typed it 25. Today, the first Monday of the year, marks my 27th year of broadcasting out of the state of Colorado. Of course, started out in Christian music DJ work, morning show on a Christian music station. And within a couple of years, I had moved to the news talk format. Many of you in Colorado know KNUS. I was a morning show there, Drive. I did the afternoon. They moved me around. They were managed by fools. And so they put me they kept changing my shift. And then ultimately, I was let go from there. I took a little hiatus, and then I ended up on a station called KNRC, which was an upstart in radio, and I was there for a period of time. And then I took another hiatus, began my music company, and then I ended up on 740 KVOR in Colorado Springs for a for a show there. And then I ended up getting hired by the old 600 KCOL iHeartMedia Clear Channel at the time and did a 10-year run in Northern Colorado. So today marks, I've taken a couple of breaks here and there, but 27 years ago today, I turned on a microphone for the first time and became a broadcast professional in the great state of Colorado. So 27 years, happy anniversary to me. You're part of the 27th anniversary. And at the time, 27th anniversary, we barely had emails going on back then. When I was doing talk radio at KNUS, my first stint in talk radio, we had to go downstairs every morning, and they put the Rocky Mountain News and the Denver Post by the front steps of the building, and we had to bring them up, and we actually had scissors, so we had no internet. The wire, that the newsroom still had the ticker tape wire, and that's 25 years ago in talk radio. They didn't have a company email address. I had my own website. I mean, it was really bizarre. But today marks 27 years of Lakey being in broadcasting in Colorado, and this is the unleashed version of Jimmy Lakey. I get to kind of do what I want, say what I want, and be the person that I want to be. All right, real quick, some of these stolen memes, I don't want to waste our time here. We put the work into it, so let's do it. Let's go to the Sean Davis meme on the FBI, if we still have that. Again, this is wrapping up the show today, but Sean Davis said this, the FBI was too busy kneeling at BLM riots, arresting Christian pastors, locking up patriotic grandmothers, spying on churches, and lying about school board parents to be bothered with something as trivial as stopping violent terrorists from killing Americans. Amen. That's Merrick Garland, and that's the idiots that have been running the Justice Department. Eric Daughtry talks about the coincidence of this whole thing. He says a guy that shoots President Trump. Let's see if we have it there. I think it popped up there for a second. A guy shoots President Trump. Talk about just the coincidence of it. There's no manifesto, no data, no text, no emails, no interviews with parents, no footage of his home, no backgrounds, no accomplices. But you get these guys from New Orleans in the Trump Tower, and we got all that information. But the guys that attempted to kill President Trump, who was protected by the Secret Service, they didn't have any of that stuff. Isn't that interesting? No cell data? That we know of. Benny Johnson put a meme out on the Cybertruck, and this is just going in order of the list on the show list. Benny Johnson says the Tesla Cybertruck saved American lives today. Not just bulletproof, it's bomb-proof, it's ISIS-proof, it's IED-proof. And by the way, I was telling you, I've got to wrap this thing up because people need to get to work, okay? But I knew that there's something fishy with all the foreign media, because I watched this happen. My hotel room had Al Jazeera and BBC and CNN International, and the speculation was maybe it caught on fire because Elon Musk had a faulty engine and a faulty battery inside of his car. They tried to blame it on Elon, but turns out Elon's design saved people. The Babylon Bee, Tesla Cybertruck, voted the worst vehicle by the National Association of Terrorist Car Bombers. So if you don't follow Babylon Bee, you should. Again, George Soros got the Medal of Freedom for some reason, and this is the photo. You thought he didn't show up at the ceremony. He actually did. This is old brother George Soros there, brother of Satan, I think. This is Joe Biden giving George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and that lighting makes him look pretty good there, doesn't it? And then one more time in memory of Benghazi, when you think that Hillary Rodham Clinton got the Medal of Freedom, she doesn't deserve it. Those people are dead because of her actions. And if you're just joining us and you missed the interview with Mark Oz, guys, go back and watch this. By the way, all the platforms this show stores there, so you can go back and watch it and comment on it and share. Would you do me a favor? Share. All right, I'm going to wrap this thing up. I want to remind you 2 ways you can support. 27 years I've been doing this. I could have walked away in November and I contemplated just packing it up. Maybe I just move to Africa and do my charitable work, but I still love America, and I still want to use my voice the best of my ability to do the Lord's work, not just in Africa, but behind a microphone. And so if you want us to continue to be able to do this, you're going to help us. All right. We're unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. We're unleashed from the confines of programming and, that stuff. But you got to help us. And one of the ways you can do that is become a sponsor of Lakey Unleashed. Send an email to info@jimmylakey.com. I don't care if you're a financial planner. I don't care if you're in Oklahoma. I don't care if you're in Alabama, you're in Colorado, whatever the case may be. Send me an email. Let us send an advertising package. There's some pretty big advertising packages, but there's just small advertising packages that you can say, hey, I'm a business that supports Brother Lakey. I'm a business that supports the podcast and the broadcast, and I want to be a part of it. Maybe just a small part, but if I can help promote your business, and you will help make this is the free part, and then there's a paid part as well, but the free part, we want to keep it free, but I need you out there. So maybe you just sell insurance, maybe you just teach guitar lessons. There's very small things that it can be regional, it can be, maybe you're in Colorado Springs, wherever you're at, we can make this work for you, but it's a way you can support the program and keep us going, doing this free Unleashed daily update. Producer Chad and I have a very expensive and time-consuming hobby, and we're hoping to make this into the real business that it should be, our own broadcasting empire, if you will. But we need your help to do it. Advertise, get it on the ground floor. You just get on the ground floor. Send me an email, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. Also, if you want to support, do this, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, patreon.com. Just look up Jimmy Lakey. There's a new interview that dropped today with Dr. John Thorpe. It's a fiery interview. It's behind a paywall. You can see a 2-minute preview. That's it. After that, you got to pay for it, and that's another way you can support. Hey, we want your support. 27 years I've been doing this, and let's see if we can make it to 28. How about that? 28? Can we get to 28? 27 years broadcasting. Today is the anniversary. Arloa says, Jimmy, I'm glad you didn't walk away. Glad you're still here for us. I did. After I got canned from the iHeart Kingdom, I was like, I'll tell you this story, and you guys are still listening. God bless you for doing that. After I got canned, I upped my trip. I was already heading to Africa, so I upped my trip, went a couple of days early. And then I was kind of thinking, talking to producer Chad, maybe I'll do something, a microphone. I don't know. Didn't know what to do. And then I thought, well, I'll wait till the first of the year. I'll do it at the first of the year. And then I got back from Africa in a couple of days, and I said, producer Chad, I think I'm going to crack a mic in my own studio and just start talking. And I did. And it just seemed natural. I had to say something. So anyway, help support us, info@jimmylakey.com, and do that. Anyway, thanks for all the well wishes. Hey, we're going to wrap this thing up because we should, and we've gone way over time. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. It's the 27th anniversary, so we just kind of we get to have fun like that, right? We get to be party animals here. RJ Jameson says, happy anniversary, Jimmy. 27 years. They said it wouldn't last, and yet it lasted 27 years. Crazy, isn't it? All right, we're starting to march towards 28 years, and you're going to help us. Info@Jimmy Lakey, and also patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Linda says, congratulations, Jimmy. Looking forward to many more years with you. Hey, if we can make this work, my friends, we prove we can do this from Africa. And I can do all the charity work I want, and I can also do this, but you help us out. Info@JimmyLakey.com. Jim says, Jimmy, congrats on helping Colorado hear the truth for over 25 years. Yeah, I changed it on the Facebook. We changed it to 27 years, but it's over 25 talk radio. The first 2 years were Christian music radio. I was quite a DJ. All right, everybody, don't forget, send me an email, follow, share this out. Tell everybody to listen to us. We'll be back here tomorrow morning. Good Lord willing, the creeks will rise, and and we wake up on time. 8 o'clock, we'll do it again. Oh, tomorrow we're going to announce the big inauguration party, live party, doing the show live in public. We'll tell you about that tomorrow morning on the program. Hey, may God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here. I swear some of you don't have jobs. I'm looking at the count here, and you guys are still here. I said you're dismissed. Class is dismissed. Oh, Ray says, Jimmy, if Joe sniffed Hillary, that'd be the most action she had in a long time. Oh, the sniffer in chief. Yeah, everybody, class is dismissed, okay? I'm reading some of these as well. It's like a chicken awarding Colonel Sanders a chicken road racer hero. Sheesh. All right, everybody, class dismissed. See you tomorrow morning. You still here? Slackers, get to work with. Some of you don't take instructions well. I said go along. Go, run along. Okay, nothing to see here. Get off my lawn. Off my lawn. Nothing to see here.